Hey everybody, I'm Jason and welcome back to From Tree to Lumber, a YouTube channel about a guy and his somewhat snow-covered sawmill. So it's a balmy -9 Celsius today. That would be something like 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but there's no wind. So I'm pretty happy about that. You may recall about 2 weeks ago, I showed you a white oak that had fallen fairly recently. It has been dead for a very long time. I wasn't sure just if the wood was any good, if it would turn out to be firewood or if it would just be left in the bush. But I thought, let's give it a shot. So I went out with the chainsaw and the tractor and I was able to bring in the trunk and a few limbs. And it actually looks like a pretty solid piece of wood, although it's starting to crack and check and I don't think there's going to be any fine carpentry from this thing. But as it happens, my log trailer has been pretty good over the years. However, I'm finding it's somewhat lacking when I bring in shorter pieces. So anything less than about 8 feet tends to fall between the front and rear bunk. So I'm going to put in a lovely white oak bed for it so that I can bring in different lengths and maybe even process the lumber into firewood into 16 or 18 inch lengths right out in the bush and then bring it all in a big pile instead of in my bucket or having to bring it into my driveway and making a huge mess. So that's the project for today. I should be able to get it all done. Let's get to it. Okay, here's the log. It is about 15 feet long as I brought it in. My measurements on the trailer say that 8 feet would be more than enough. So what I'm gonna do, this is a down and dirty construction, not any kind of piano building exercise. I'm just gonna take the chainsaw, I'm gonna cut this baby off at 8-ish feet, and that's gonna be the length of all the boards, and that'll be the end of that. Very simple, straight up, don't wanna take a lot of time here. All right, so I cut out a cookie just because I like cookies, but I'm going to, oh, look at that, eh? I'm gonna use this to plan out my cuts on this log, and that way I don't waste anything and I make sure that I get everything I can out of it. All right, here's the log wagon in question. If you want to see more about this beauty, I did quite a rebuild on it when I first got it. It was all seized up and in pretty rough shape. I'll leave a link to that in the description. It was one of my first projects with the sawmill on my old channel. So the important thing here is 8 feet will cover end to end, probably hang over something like, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches each side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to lay a board flat across the bottom there. That is 42 inches inside to inside. Okay, then I will run the boards lengthways. I'll probably put a brace in the middle, and then I'll put something on these sides just to keep stuff from falling off. I could go wider, but to tell you the truth, I passed through some pretty tight spots out in the bush, and I don't really want to go too wide. Plus, it can't really hold that much weight anyway. So, let's not push it. So I figured it out at 42 inches wide. I would need 6 pieces, roughly 7 inches wide, but I'm not going to make it tight. I'll probably leave at least 1/4 of an inch, so I will cut them 6 3/4 inches wide. That way it can shrink a little bit, I'm sure, and crap can fall through and it won't fill up with stuff as much or water or whatever. Like I say, this is down and dirty. It's a log wagon. There we have it. So much easier to do this in front of the wood stove than it is out in the snow. Looks like it's a little bit wider that way. I don't think it really matters in this case, but let's mark the center of the log this way. Okay, hope you can see that. I'm gonna cut this way for the 6 3/4. So half of 7, let's call it, is 3.5, right? So 3.5 would be there, and then 7 is right there. This is all give or take, more or less. I just want to make sure I've got enough in this one log to get this all done. So that would be 6 3/4. All right, I want to make these 1.5 inches thick. So 6 of them at 1.5 inches thick is 9, so we need 10 inches basically. And I'm pretty sure we've got that. Yep. Okay, so let's mark it up here as high as I can. which would be there, and then there. Okay. Now, I'm not too worried about the pith because I don't really care if this cracks or warps or whatever on a on a log wagon. So I want to use all the wood I can. So I'll get my 6 pieces out of here, no problem. Now on the sides, I want the sides to go up. I'd like them to be, you know, as thick as possible. 1.5 inches would be nice. So that'll be about there and about there. Now the one thing that I haven't accounted for yet is going to be the pieces that lay down on top of the metal. I would like them as well to be, I don't know, 1.5 inches. I'm using 2 3/4 inch screws or 2.5 inch screws. I can't remember, one or the other. So I can't go much longer than 3 and a 3-inch screw. So I need pieces for there, and they only have to be like 3 inches wide. So I think I can get one probably from over here, and maybe one from up top here, or maybe even 2 there, but I'll get them, no problem. This is the small part of the log, by the way. So I will get my 6 pieces for the bed, the 2 pieces for the side, and then I'll get somewhere, I'll get the 3 or 4 pieces that I'm gonna lay down to attach everything to. So the log is big enough. I've got some kind of an idea of how I'm gonna cut it now, and that's really all I need to get started. All right, time to wake up the rusty old tractor here. So it's a 1970 something white 260 made by Fiat. It was my grandfather's. I've had it plugged in now for, I don't know, hour and a half. See how she does, but I know the answer already. It's been a very pleasant winter here in southern Ontario. It's cold enough that the ground is frozen, but really not that much snow, at least so far. But we got a bit last night, so it's going to take a few minutes to get things moving this morning. For what it's worth, the sawmill doesn't seem to care about the temperature. The logs cut about the same as they do in the warmer weather. All right, got her set up. So I've backed that wagon right up to the side of the sawmill because we're cutting and assembling all at the same time here. Let me set up the cameras and let's get to it. It's gonna turn into a beautiful day. I don't know if this is normal in sawmills, but once logs get to a certain size, these clamps don't really do very much. It's hard to grip on the bottom, they just slide out. So I don't, you don't really need them on these big logs. Frontier provides this wedge thing that comes in and you just kind of ram it in there and hold it against the stops, and this log won't move, it's far too heavy. Tension the blade, I just take up the slack about there, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4 is probably good enough. See how the mighty Life Ann likes it today. I'm gonna turn the choke on, just make sure it's got a little bit of throttle, 1 or 2 pulls. 1, oh, maybe 3 pulls. This saw blade still has a fair bit of life left in it from the last log, which was a similarly sized ash tree. Because this wood is still really hard despite its age, and it's definitely dry, I wouldn't expect to get much more cutting out of it at the end of today. It will still be useful for smaller diameter or shorter logs for a while. I like to get as much out of a blade as I can. You know, for an old tree, that's some good looking wood. I almost feel bad using it for a wagon. I got lots of white oak, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, that's a good looking piece of wood. I'm sure most of you know I'm not a big fan of the clamping system on this mill. I'm doing what I can to improve it. And I certainly don't trust the stops to be square. They're too soft, you know. So I'm pretty meticulous about setting it up with this big square that lives with the sawmill. It's all I ever use it for. So it's good there. Now I can cut my nice my side here, and I'll know that it's going to be nice and square. All right, see if you can follow me here. I'm going to be taking the 6 pieces this way out of the middle, okay? And I need that to be roughly 7 inches wide, 6 3/4. Okay, so 6 3/4, plus I want to take my side pieces off here, right? So I need this to be 10 inches, more or less, all right? And I've got 11 inches. So I can take off another inch. I can take a 1-inch board off of this. And this is kind of a gnarly looking board, actually. It's got all of the those checks and everything in it. You know, it's got a lot of character. Let's just leave it at that. Well, it's 6 5/8, 6 5/8, 6 3/4, whatever. Like I say, I want a little space in between them, so that's no problem. I'm gonna put my edge clamps on this so it doesn't tip over, and I'm gonna cut off my 1.5 inch pieces to start the bed. Look at this in here. See all the rays? So that's quarter sawn white oak basically right there. It's just beautiful wood. I can't believe I'm using this for a trailer. Right, first bucket of sawdust. I give that to my mom. She puts it on her around her plants in the garden. It keeps weeds down.
Turns out the plan I set out to you earlier was right on the mark. I got everything I needed plus just a little bit more. Love it when that happens.
There are my 42 inchers that will go across, sit on the metal bunks, and we'll screw into these. Right on, so there's everything. Looking good. So now what I'm gonna do, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go inside and have lunch. Pretty much all my camera batteries are dead in this cold. And then I'm going to get my screw gun out and I'm gonna screw this baby together.
My intentions were never to show you the entire assembly process, but I'll explain a couple of things before this camera battery finally dies. I'm countersinking the screws about 1/2 inch so that there's absolutely no chance that I'll hit one with a chainsaw. The next thing is I won't be connecting the bed directly to the wagon frame, which will allow it to flex on uneven ground. You know, one wheel won't get stuck up in the air if it goes over a ditch kind of thing. I'll screw in some stops on the front and back so that the bed can't actually slide off. I'll give you a quick update in the next video on the final product. Thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.